What's up everybody, Ryan Tuerck here, ready to answer some of your questions. Name Does Curve asked, does a blow-off valve really matter when you have a wastegate? The wastegate actually has nothing to do with the blow-off valve. It's kind of in a separate area of the system. These days turbos are built very well and they've come a long way, so you don't have to run a blow-off valve, but you will be replacing your turbo sooner. If you do run a blow-off valve, it's definitely going to release all that added pressure in there that's back surging the compressor wheel, and yeah, it does cause some damage. But I've run no blow-off valve for probably 2 seasons on some of my cars, and the turbos do hold up well. The Garrett turbos hold up extremely well, and that's what I've noticed so far in my cars. YouTube user Derek Baker asked, with the average horsepower for FD cars constantly rising, it seems that one limiting factor to the series is tire compound. Do you guys think drifting on R compound tires is something we'll see in the future of the sport? Derek, for the most part, most guys and most tire manufacturers are supplying their drivers with an R compound tire. The Z-rated or the older compound is kind of out, and a lot of people have a lot of the manufacturers have crossed into making R compound as their highest performance tire, and that's what most guys are drifting on the track. There's still some manufacturers that are pushing to change over, but for the most part, most of us are seeing an R compound from the manufacturer. YouTube user Demon Gaming asks, Ryan, how much camber do you run in the front of your 240SX? After putting a WiseFab front end on, the thing has got to be running about 5.5 to 6 degrees of negative camber, and it's static because that's the way that the WiseFab kit was engineered for the car, and that's basically just what you want to run because that's the way all the geometry was designed to get that backward style angle with still a phenomenal feel in the front end and good grip as well. Well, I'm happy with where things are with my build, and I know Chris made some massive strides.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on all of our progress too, so let's get right to the questions. For your suspension, how stiff or soft are your spring rates and dampers, and how different is it from front to rear? Well, we can't exactly tell you what we're running because everyone's pretty secretive about it, and it's a little different between every chassis, so not every situation is the same. But what I can tell you is that a common misconception with drifting is that we make these things as stiff as possible so that they slide around the corners, when in fact we're actually looking for as much grip as possible, trying to get the suspension to move freely, soaking up the bumps, and taking the transitions and letting the weight move side to side so we can really dig and get through the corners. What I can tell you is that from front to rear, we run a lot stiffer of a spring and a lot more shock in the front versus the rear, where we run a softer spring to allow the rear end to give and get that traction. However, we do use a lot of shock to keep it from kind of bouncing around and porpoising through the track. As far as sway bars, same kind of situation. We keep the front pretty stiff, kind of keeps the chassis planted, but the rear we want a little more give so that we can have more control. It's more so set up like a sprint car than your regular road race car. We let these things kind of roll over and get that grip and dig through the corners. Now from Graph Performance, he asks, why is the 370 leaking? Yeah, obviously we had a little leak at the end of the video, we shut it down, but with every time we put a new car together, we have a lot of eyes on it, fire it up, and we make sure that nothing's leaking, no fluids are coming out, and if there are, we shut it down and figure out where the leak is coming from. In this instance, we just have one of the oil cooler lines just wasn't snugged up all the way. It was just a little bit of a drip, it wasn't making a huge mess or anything, but obviously saw a leak, shut it down, snugged it up, fired it back up, no issues. Whenever you're building a new car like that, you always want to be checking everything, double checking everything, making sure that you don't fire it up with low oil pressure or losing coolant. or anything like that that's going to damage your engine. And lastly, from Damian Badley, he asks, how difficult is it maintaining 4+ cars, including 3 that you thrash on? Do they get treatment one after each event, or do you find sometimes a couple can be neglected for longer than you'd want? Well, it is very difficult. I will say that having MA Motorsports as a full-time crew obviously helps a ton with the workload. Their full-time job is to maintain the 2 pro cars, and then when there's time, they help me with the demo cars like the M56 and my 240SX if need be. But mostly, I do a lot of the work on the 240SX, and I've been doing some of the work on the new 370Z as well. You know, I try not to bother them with the side projects so that they can focus on the Formula D program and keeping those 2 Formula D 370Zs running top notch. And with that, you know, they do an amazing job, and the preventative maintenance is the most important part about Formula D, is to stay ahead of everything, double check all your drivetrain after each event, and make sure that you're 100% ready for each competition. So therefore, yes, the Formula D cars get the priority, and everything else, I wouldn't say gets neglected, but it does get checked after the pro cars are ready to go first. Alright, well thanks for watching, and make sure to get caught up on all the episodes on Network A, and keep an eye out on Tuesday for the upcoming episode. See you next time.